Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Step right up to If You Have to Explain the Joke podcast. I'm Alexis.
I'm Michael. It's good to be back.
AJ here.
And Aaron.
Yeah.
And we are jazzed for today.
I think we are.
We are talking about Anthony Jeselnik's Thoughts and Prayers 2013 Netflix special.
Heard of him?
2015 Netflix special.
I don't know.
Yeah, 2015. Caligula was 2013. My apologies, audience.
It's okay.
It is what it is.
Yeah, suck it.
Mr. Jeselnik, do we want to do a little background?
Yeah, I mean, like, we can just talk about his joke style first and foremost.
Yeah.
He's in the lineage of the one-liners. We've done...
Mitch.
We did Mitch Hedberg before.
The legend.
But he takes it to another level where he is rambling off the most inappropriate one-liner.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, my background for Jeselnik is I knew him from Comedy Central roasts. Like, that's how I found out about him, saw him on all these, immediately knew he was like a crude comedian who pulled no punches back, made people cringe with his jokes. So that was my introduction to him. So those are the blinders I went into this with.
I did not know Anthony Jeselnik at all. Never heard of this person. Aaron said he was popular a few years ago.
Back in the college days.
Yeah.
Our college
I had
days.
no clue.
Our college days.
Everyone's college.
Maria
2010, 2014.
Yeah.
What, I don't know, I find him interesting. I like we've talked about this on the Hedberg, but I like somebody that can be that prolific at just like one-liners. That fascinates me in itself. And he kind of came out in the same time. I actually don't know this for sure, but pure speculation. It felt like the same time as Tosh, like the guys that were just like, here's the most vulgar. Here's the
Tosh is a couple years before him. Yeah,
But
Tosh
just-
is about 4 years before.
just a handful of comedians that were like, I'm not going to give a fuck about political correctness. I'm going to go hard.
For sure.
Yeah, and my introduction was the same as the ones who did know, right? We saw him in college, in our college days, and on roasts, and I never actually watched a full set of his, and so that is why we were open, I feel like.
Oh, so I'm the big fan.
You're the odd man out.
I'm the big fan here because I found him. I mean, we'll go through the history, but he was in the classic guy doing comedy in New York who gets picked for a Comedy Central Presents special, and like
Did he get a 30-minute special?
So we talked about this before, but like I would just fall asleep watching Comedy Central for all of their like weird Comedy Central Presents. It would just be on late night.
You're a true comedian.
Oh, I was addicted as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
And AJ's a comedian.
He was so young, like really like 22, 23, in 2009 gets this special and just like showed up late night one night. I watched the whole thing, never learned his name. Years go by, he ends up on one of those roasts. I'm like, that's the guy, but he was killing me on that.
So yeah, I was going to ask you the first time you saw him, what was your first?
He was a lot less vulgar the first time.
Yeah.
He would write jokes. Like there's one that stuck with me all these years where
He's always been vulgar to me though. That's all I remember of him.
His early stuff was in that, like, you could feel it bubbling, but like my favorite joke, the first time I was like, oh, he's got something, was when he said, I'm about to graduate and everybody keeps asking me, what are you going to do after graduation? And I'm like, I don't know. I guess my parents are going to take me to dinner or something. And like that kind of humor where it's like
wholesome joke.
Yeah, the same kind of like left turn humor where you think you know where it's going, but a lot less, a lot of like my girlfriend this and my girlfriend that, like a lot less dead baby jokes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So, audience, Anthony Jeselnik was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in 1978.
That's wild.
And so that's probably why he's so so just
Morbid?
boring.
Oh.
Shots fired at Pittsburgh.
He released his first album, Shakespeare, in 2010, Caligula in 2013, and then this was Thoughts and Prayers in 2015. He did 3 roasts, so his roasts were really what got him popular.
Yeah.
He did Donald Trump, then Roseanne Barr, and Charlie Sheen. That was 2010, 11, and 12.
Idea for another one, Donald Trump roast. I totally forgot he had a roast.
For this podcast.
Yeah, but that's
I thought
conversation for another time.
I thought you were pitching the idea for a Donald Trump
No.
roast.
That's not... This
Which
is
has
not,
already happened. We just said it.
We'll
not
talk about it
episode
later.
related. Thank you, Michael, for the segue.
We'll talk about
But...
He also wrote for Fallon. Fallon's
that was
first, first year as a late night host, and apparently was like the classic couldn't get a joke on to save his life. Would just pitch the same like obesity jokes, and Fallon was like, "That is gonna kill my fan base." Like I'm not saying those.
He says that in the set, right?
Does he?
That he pitched it every day for 30 days? Or is that an article I read?
No.
Okay, so that was an article I read. Later we'll talk about the Shark Party joke, but he pitched the Shark Party joke on Fallon every day for 30 days and
Really?
it got rejected. Yeah. So yeah, he became in the cultural zeitgeist, right? He's doing 3 roasts in a row. The guy is clearly popular. He's come out with sets since. I know 2019 he had a set with a beard. He got bearded. That was interesting. An interesting look. Yeah, I would say you guys want to dive into the set.
Let's get going.
Only way to do it. San Francisco.
I'm just gonna say out of the bat that this was a nightmare for me, and I hate Anthony Jeselnik.
Whoa. Okay, so go on.
All
appreciate
opinions
you
are valid
starting with
here,
that.
but I'm just gonna say
Yeah,
that
why do you
because
feel
I
that
feel
way?
very strongly.
Let's get into broad
Tell
thoughts
us why,
first.
Alexis.
broad thoughts.
Like, just like, why do you?
So, I mean, we can kind of just go because, like I said, I did not know him, had never heard him. So I was like very open-minded. Even
I
at the
knew you were gonna tell
beginning,
us
I'm
that,
like,
Yeah, I do.
like, you know, he made the joke about like San Francisco, most PC city in the world. Not when I'm on stage, it's not. Or like, I saw a baby today locked in a car, but I tried to throw a rock in the window. The window was down. Like, I was like, okay,
First off.
maybe I like his delivery. But there are layers to my disdain.
He's a
here.
little like
Yeah.
monotone serial killer-esque.
I'm gonna jump on this wagon and really give my thoughts and opinions. So I've never liked Anthony Jeselnik. I always thought he was
I'm
really bad.
shocked.
I
thought it was
always
gonna be
thought
a
that like the crudeness was just to be crude, and he goes like I read some articles like that's what he's doing, and just to be crude. To me isn't like a valuable trait. So I was curious to watch a set. Like I went in open-minded, like, okay, I've never watched the whole set. We'll see what he does with it. I gotta say, he didn't do much with it. So the second half, he basically just tries to make himself feel better about the things he's done. But yeah, so I went into this open-minded, and then going back, even after the set didn't really hit, I was like, well, what about some of his other stuff? I watched all of his roasts. They don't really land for me. He has a joke for Seth Green. He
I'm so
goes,
excited to hear AJ right now.
I'm sorry, AJ.
Keep going.
yeah, he goes, Seth Green is here, everybody. Well, we all have the weird, creepy uncles, right? Well, Seth Green's gotten fucked by all of them. And to me, it's just like, good, you got Seth Green, all right.
On to the next.
Yeah, like,
When
wait.
what's the deaf actress's name who was on
Marley Matlin.
Yeah, when he yells, he goes, Marley Matlin. Are you even listening to me? I lost my shit at that roast. Like, that is so good
I
to me.
expect you to.
Yeah.
Yeah, those jokes just don't do it for me. It's interesting because I love Mitch Hedberg so much, so I do like the twist, but his twists don't really, like, they don't land. Like, okay, Larry King's on one of the roasts, so he goes, Larry King has been married 8 times. Jesus, 8 times? You have 99 problems, and bitches are all of them.
I mean,
Like,
it's fine.
you know, like, yeah, they're all fine. Like,
I had a similar experience as you did because I knew about him and what his like MO was, but I still went in with an open mind and I was still disappointed because I think a combination of his content and how he delivers it, I got a feeling of like a opposite of humility, like he knows he's the shit and he's about to like lay down a joke that's gonna get everyone laughing. Like that
I know.
irked
Yeah, but
me
it's-
a little bit.
It's false bravado. It's a character.
I know, but like it's too
I
much.
know.
You know, it's
But his character, so we'll go into this during the set, but I will say that his demeanor and his his delivery is so bad to me. It doesn't help him one bit. Like, going off of his bravado, but like the monotone. So I read this in an article that basically the first time he went on to do a open mic, he tried to do physical comedy and it bombed. So he vowed to never do physical comedy again. Well, the one part that I laughed the hardest later is like the one moment in the set that he does something different.
What was it?
And that's not to say that there weren't times that we both did laugh at.
I laughed.
In my notes,
I
there
laughed.
were some where
I will
I'm
say
like,
I chuckled.
I'm dead. That was funny.
Every sixth or seventh joke of his, I laugh at.
I laughed occasionally.
Yeah, and I will say of his specials, this is my least favorite. I will give you that. Like we picked the one that was on Netflix. Our bad. We probably should have found some access to some other ones, but I am fascinated by. We've talked about this on the Mitch episode. Like guys that can write these kind of prolific jokes. I like the idea of like he walks it more than anybody, where he puts a setup in front of you where you almost think you know what the joke, or you think you know, like, I know what this joke is going to be, and then he hits you over the head with something different, and you're like, damn, like, how did I not see that coming?
So,
yeah, I did not feel that way.
So, yeah.
It's just, like, repetitive. First of all, the format of the jokes, like, honestly, looking back, I'm like, wow, Mitch Hedberg was a fucking genius. I know that I maybe liked him the least at that time, but, like, comparatively now, I'm like, okay, Mitch Hedberg was doing that style where it's like intro, twist. And it was perfectly like a bomb at the end that just got you each time. It was great and was silly and like smart. This to me, it just felt like so repetitive. Like every single sentence was da 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 da. I was da 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 da. Like
I will agree with you completely on that. In fact, I will play a game with myself sometimes where, like, when he puts out new material, I will watch the setup and then pause it and see if I can guess what the punchline is going to be, because you know it's going to be so
dark.
You kind of playing in your mind, okay, what's the setup? Where's it going? Like,
he's pigeonholed himself because he loves being like, literally there's a quote where he's talking about how he had some TV show in 2013 and he's like, what if the devil had a talk show? But I still think I can be the Prince of Darkness. Like, he's calling himself the Prince of Darkness. His whole thing is like, how can I make people cringe? So there is no turn for me because you know every turn is going to go dark. So even though I'm like, okay, I didn't get that joke right because I didn't use the same exact words, I knew it was going to be about a dead baby. I knew it was going to be about him fucking his sister. Or
also the name of that show, the Jeselnik Offensive. Like, this is his brand.
But what's weird, I gotta say, is like a lot of his stuff, it's not even offensive. Like, I can laugh at a joke, like he was like, beautiful women, such she's a brain surgeon. I don't know if this is sexist, but I was really impressed. I mean, most women can't pull off sarcasm. That was actually a better one, I gotta say.
That kills me.
But some of them, like, his offense, he like louds himself as this provocateur and like, I'm so offensive, no one can handle me. But it's like, no one is offended necessarily by like dead baby jokes. They're just like fucking stupid, I think.
I think he's also responding. Like, we're in hindsight, but at the time, those are the articles that are being written about him. That is the commentary. Like, he's riding that own wave in a way.
So, just if you guys want to quote, this was from when he released 2019. New York Times did a piece about him, or how he's so thoughtful and smart. But he goes, so this was a joke that he removed from his set later on. This was after the synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh. He took this joke out of his set. He goes, the joke is, why is it a hate crime if I love to do it? But then he goes, which, whatever. They're all whatever. At the beginning, there were lots of jokes about my girlfriend, and you hear the misogynists laugh a little louder. If I talk about race, racists laugh a little louder. It's why I've gone darker. If you talk about death, everyone's in the same boat. So, like, I think obviously it's good to see, at least through his interviews, that he's aware he does change with the times.
Well, can we talk about that real quick? Because I like that there are comics out there that are going to push the limits of what you can say. And I do agree with you. Sometimes he's not even that offensive, but he's willing to talk about the topic, where sometimes people are like, oh, you can't even talk about this anymore. He's like, no.
Right, but that's where, like, I'm like, okay, then Dave Chappelle is doing that, and he's doing it well, I think.
Well, actually, Dave Chappelle is clearly more offensive. Like, Dave Chappelle is clearly more...
Right, but he's, like, going out there talking about it, actually, like, relevant things, and bringing up intelligent
Yeah, like, I
intelligent
guess to
viewpoints.
this point, like, he made a comment in the set about how the goalpost keeps moving on things that you can't say. There were several things in this set and Thoughts and Prayers that I personally deem as just kind of like, and he was describing me, like, I thought that this was off limits, like, talking about Eric Clapton's son. Like, people seemed in the audience to think that was funny. I thought that that was, like, extremely...
hilarious?
Like, kind of gross. I don't know, like, a 3-year-old kid falling out of a skyscraper and dying.
When he calls him a clumsy little lad.
I know, which is like, I think that's an interesting take, maybe. It just feels like such a jarring thing to make a joke about. I don't know.
That's what he's going for, though.
I know, but like that, I don't know if it sits with me.
Can I rewind real quick?
Yeah.
The thing that you were just reading in that article about he is listening, like, if he makes a racist joke, he's trying to pick fun at racism and making a joke about it, but when he hears a racist person laugh a little bit more, or if he makes a sexist joke and he hears men laugh, like, he's clearly conscious enough to be like, they're not getting it the same way I'm getting it, and so I'm going to stop making those jokes and push it to a world that we all live in, you know, like.
Yeah, but like, I think some of it is like, Dave Chappelle believes the things he says. Jeselnik, I don't think, believes any of this shit.
But is that important?
Kind of, because...
I disagree.
Because you can tell. That's why I think his delivery doesn't work for me, because it's all bullshit. Even his family jokes, like, aren't real stories, so like, okay, this is just made... Like, everything's made up.
He had like a whole piece and then goes, none of that's real. So
no,
like,
but I understand.
what?
But like, even Chappelle has said in his specials, like, I'm saying the funniest thing I can think of, not the politically correct, not what I believe. I'm saying the funniest version, and it might offend people. And then he doesn't like when he gets backlash, which is why this like whole transgender thing has gone on for special after special, is because he said something he thought was just being funny, which he doesn't believe, and got a ton of backlash for it. And so he's like, well, you're not going to tell me what I can and can't say.
Well, it's not that he doesn't believe those things. It's that they're not understanding his critique of these things. His intent, yeah.
Well, okay, back to Jeselnik. I just think for me, the underlying thing is that none of this is really offensive. I don't think at any point he really goes into anything that's like a divisive thing in society, that's like majorly racism or whatever. Like, I mean, he is a lot of misogynistic stuff, but like, listen, I'm a feminist. I can laugh at some jokes about women if they're about, you know, misogynistic shit if it's funny. To me, it's just that none of it's funny. And, I mean, and that's... I will honestly say about 95% of this I thought was just not funny and low brow.
Let's talk about that 5%.
And
can I tell one joke?
Wait, one last thing I gotta say. What he thinks is funny, as in like darkness, like it's just like jokes that we made when we were 10 years old. Like he said, this girl was so beautiful, she was 19 years old and she got a tattoo.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, that's gonna look so bad in 20 years, stretched out over my lamp. Like his weird thing of like, I'm a serial killer, like I like, it was just like, okay, dude, whatever.
That's just like clever writing and the twist. Like, I feel like you're not giving enough credit to, that's gonna look like the pause and the delicacy of, that's going to look bad in 20 years stretched out. If you had just stopped there, you're picturing like an old saggy person, like that idea, and then the comma, and then to say, stretched out over my lamp. And like, yes, that is not the funniest punchline, but the cleverness of making me think he's talking about that tattoo's going to look terrible in 20 years just because you're going to get old and stretchy.
Yeah, I think there's a more eloquent way of...
Yeah, I just
think the joke still is like him playing on this thing like, oh, I'm like a sick serial killer that like loves dead bodies and shit.
Right, but it's not...
But that idea is not that funny. So that's not what makes me interested in that joke. That joke is more interesting because of the... He could have made any reference to a serial killer. He was smart enough to be like, the stretched out of a tattoo versus the stretched out of skin over my, like, that is smart.
I want to share an example of like a similar joke syntax that he had that I thought was extremely funny. This was my favorite joke of the set.
Okay.
When he's talking about, he asked the audience if they've checked child molesters that live near them or around them, and he's doing the same thing we're talking about, is he's like slowly building up to something and you don't know how it's going to end. And he says, I looked and there were so many that lived close to me, like within 5 miles of my apartment. So why the hell do we always have to meet at my place? Like that to me, like it had nothing to do with child molesters as much as it was like a self-deprecating, like I'm a part of it.
Right.
Sure.
I definitely thought that the first 15 minutes or so were the best. Like I feel like all of the good things that I enjoy about Jeselnik, like the jokes, the 1 and the 6, all one of those were in the beginning, and then the rest of the 5 out of the 6 were in the back half. Actually, I laughed twice really hard.
Aaron was dying at this one. We both were laughing.
I will say, so the first time I laughed really hard is that we've all watched enough stand-up here that there's always that one audience member that has the crazy laugh, and I'm like, I feel so bad for this comedian that he's gonna have to deal.
That woman
and he goes up and he goes, what do you say?
Ask her what she does or something.
So he goes up to this lady. I can tell you're a big comedy fan and batshit insane. Did you just come from the dentist or what? What's your name, Peggy? What are you trying to do? Oh, you're disabled? I know you're disabled.
Yeah. When she says, what do you do, Peggy? And she yells, I'm disabled. He goes, Peggy, I know you're disabled.
Yeah, that was great. And that was him, like, being mean or offensive. Like, we wouldn't normally say that to somebody, but like it didn't have to follow his standard thing. I mean, that's crowd work. Like his crowd work sometimes is good, and I like that. Like that's where I know I'm like
cheeky.
This guy is smart, but I just don't think he uses it in a clever enough way.
Totally agree.
I really love his audience banter. Like every time he addresses the audience, that was making me die. Like
I agree. His audience work was some of the better.
He says to the husband, what do you do so I can move the fuck on?
Because like I kind of agreed. Like let's get on with it. Tell us what you do for a living so he can move on to his next bit.
I literally have commented, like I'm agreeing with you guys that like I put in parentheses lots of bad jokes like in the stream of this show, and then the next one that made me laugh was I love the uncle joke about summer camp. He says, He says, there's a lot of bad jobs out there. My uncle runs a summer camp for kids who are about to get molested. We're all summer camp people here, so that just made me laugh and cringe. And then I think it's smart, the next 2 little blurbs about it. He doubles down twice. He says, he says never worked a day in his life.
It doesn't pay that much, but the benefits.
See, and that's because, like, that joke's good because he goes on. Like, he starts extrapolating and expanding on that first joke, and a lot of times he doesn't do that. He just says the twist and moves on. So my favorite joke is one that he really goes into. So he tells the joke about how his brother's living with him, and one day he comes, or like he's like,
I walked in on my brother.
I got my brother masturbate.
Well, he said like no one likes him in the community. Or something.
The neighbors don't like him. And we don't have anyone have this.
Okay, he says I walked in on my brother masturbating, and he just looked at me and said, like, go away.
No, he said, shut the door. I said, come inside.
Yeah. So then he said, come back inside.
Okay, so then he goes on like, my brother was at a show one time, and he was there, and he came up to me, and I was like, how was the joke? And he's like, I think it's kind of weird you want to fuck me. And then I forget the exact, but he goes on, and he's like, no, that's a joke about you masturbating, not me wanting to fuck you. And he's like, no, he's like, yeah, you were like, come on back inside, And the way he said it is the only time in the entire set he talked in his brother's voice, where he gave him like this kind of little deep, like, come back inside. It's only voice work he did the entire set, and he just turned it because the usual Jeselnik joke is come back inside, right? It's the turn. My brother was masturbating with the door open. I told him to come back inside. Ha ha ha. The funny part, that wasn't funny. The funny part was when he sets it up with, my brother says, why do you want to fuck me? Which didn't make sense to me.
It's like an odd.
And he's in this, he's kind of doing a voice finally. And then he gives himself this thing where he's like, yeah, come back inside. And even does a little bit of sexual seduction. And it just made me laugh so hard to think of a younger brother or a brother being like, you want to fuck me? That's weird. It's interpreting the entire joke very differently than I did, or than anyone did, because the joke was just like, oh, he was masturbating outside. To have somebody interpret the joke differently, especially his brother, I didn't hear the next couple jokes because I was crying laughing.
I did, so I can jump in. I agree with what you just said, Aaron. Right after that joke, he displayed his lack of humility again, in my opinion. He kept making references to like his amazing place that he has in Los Angeles. Like he kept saying like, I have a great apartment. Like he said like, I have an awesome apartment.
Yeah, there's a little bit
but there was no like
to his
joke tied to it. It just felt like like a a red herring. Like I have a lot of money. Like I have a dope place. And I was like,
I think there's like this, he's playing this character, like no comic is really cocky. So he's kind of like, in my mind, like it's all humorous. I don't think he thinks like I'm the shit. I think he thinks it's funny to pretend
comes across that
to be the shit.
Yeah, he definitely has the, you know what? He did this. He said, you can hate me. Wait, hold on. Fuck, I lost it. He said, you can hate me and still laugh at me. That's how talented I am. And I'm like, this fucking guy, I want to punch him in the face. That's the most punchable face. And then he goes immediately into, I once dated a girl who punched me as hard as she could. I turned around and left, but in my head, I was like, no, we're even. And all I was thinking was, yeah, I would punch the fuck out of you too if I had you in my daily life.
Well, I love that one though.
That made me laugh. So we've talked about this on the Hedgeberg podcast, but I also get really fascinated by the idea of jokes that we tell each other. And I mean that in the sense that like when your grandfather or your dad or you're in the lunchroom and you have like a 4-second joke, you can't tell a monologue, you can't like tell somebody's story about being with their brother because that's not funny, but you can say like a guy walks into a bar, right? Like where did those jokes come from? And those are like Dangerfield and Mitch Hedberg, and like he really kind of is the only person of the last 10-15 years that like is still kind of doing that format of here's one-liners that you can kind of repeat, and no, they're not all great, but like some of them kill me. Like I love the have you ever seen a dead body? I have. I was walking in the woods and I saw a guy in a bear trap. And I didn't tell anybody, but I came back a couple weeks later and he was dead.
I
that's
guess,
great.
Like I almost think that he would be better.
Disagree.
I think it would be better if he like was just a writer on things. Like I think I think it's like, I want to say he's not smart because I don't think he's funny, but I think it's a presentation thing. Like we talk about Rodney Dangerfield and the aura of that man is funny. Mitch Hedberg has this, he talks weird. He is weird. He is funny. He doesn't even have to tell me jokes and I'll be like, this guy's fucking funny.
Sure.
Jeselnik, I think like his monotone and like he just like stands there. He, like I said, the hardest I laughed was when the one time he did a voice. And like to me, at least what I'm looking for in comedy is like a comedian, like somebody who just feels funny. I feel like this guy has found like a shortcut that he believes where it's like, oh, I can just do this forever. And it's like, actually, the times that you start writing and you start doing a little bit more work on your jokes are the times you are funnier. But he just goes back to the, how can I make this a twist? Which I think we could come around if we wanted to spend 5 hours today coming up with phrases and then seeing how we can turn them. I think we could come up with 50 jokes today, and they might not all be good, but 2 of them might be good, and we do it again the next day.
So do you feel like are you saying that he has like a lazy kind of comedy?
Yeah, oh yes, for sure. And part of that is his persona too, him being like, I'm a badass, I'm this the Prince of Darkness. Like that's not funny. You're not a Prince of Darkness. Like you're like he's not that, right? Like we're watching the Pam and Tommy thing. Tommy Lee is fucking nuts. The guy's tatted up, insane, and like could murder anybody at any time. Jeselnik, none of these jokes land because like he's not that.
Well, I don't think he means Prince of Darkness like he's Ozzy Osbourne. I think he means like, I just tell dark jokes and I'm not gonna...
Yeah, but
I guess I'm just shocked that so many people like are into that.
You know, like, oh, I'm gonna burn you so hard with this mediocre joke.
I will say a lot of the topics in his jokes make sense when he says he went to Catholic school growing up. So like that helped me kind of categorize him.
He does have that. Yeah.
When he starts talking about like the joke about his nephew and the Barbie doll, I was like, oh God, where is this going? And then it becomes, he says he's not going to get him a Barbie doll because it gives boys unrealistic expectations. how easy it is to tear off a head or something.
Yeah.
And like, it ended still pretty morbid, but like not the direction we thought he was going in.
Right. Like I liked the part about growing up and having a gun. And again, you're right, Aaron, there was a couple extra little sprinkles of jokes on that one that was keeping it going, that made, like, the joke is essentially, my parents wanted a gun to protect our 5 kids. Then we needed to get rid of the gun to protect our 4 kids. Just when I was getting good at it.
Right. So, like, I do like that. And, I mean, my mom should have been celebrating her 60th B-Day, but because of drugs and alcohol, we all forgot.
Yeah.
Like, I think, again, you look at Hedgeberg, and because he uses the entire world, you really never know where he's going. And because he's so out there and outlandish, like, the shit he says is even crazy. This is just, it becomes so formulaic and predictable that the formula, becomes boring. Like, I know that...
He said, in 5th grade, my classmate got cancer. So every guy shaved our head to make fun of him.
And we would have kept doing it.
The next joke
It
is
didn't last too long because you know how cancer gets.
And AJ, put me in my place. Maybe I'm a prude about this, but like cancer jokes, 9/11 jokes. I wrote in my notes here, 9/11 jokes just don't do it for me. Like,
honestly, I feel like I can laugh at all of those things. Like, a 9/11 joke lands, cancer,
I just can't,
make it land.
I can't think of like a way in which that would be funny to me.
So I appreciate that nothing's off limits. Like, I really do.
Yeah.
It has to be funny. I agree that not all of these hit, but like he's got some old jokes where he's talking like the Holocaust. He talks about how his mom is a Holocaust denier, and then he wants her to watch all these. He's like, my mom's a Holocaust denier. She doesn't believe it happened. And I'm like, Mom, 6 million Jews died. Like, how can you not? So we had her watch all these documentaries. She watched Schindler's List. We watched all these different things, and now she's a true believer. In fact, she can't believe it hasn't happened twice. And that kills me.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't even get that.
Like, not only is she a Holocaust denier now, but she was educated on it and wants more.
Right. And like, he made a Hitler joke in this one. Like, that shit just like makes me laugh. I don't know.
Well, we're all different, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I can laugh at all these things, but they've got to be delivered to me in a good way that like is clever and I feel like is genuine.
Yes, if
like,
I'm gonna laugh at a 9/11 joke, you better work for that joke.
Can we talk about the one part where there was some substance? It's the name of the the name of the show. Thoughts and Prayers.
Wait, before we get to that, can I just read some of my random notes because they're kind of funny?
Okay, go on.
These were my stream of consciousness as watching. Okay, wife beating joke, asshole dad, toxic masculinity, etc. Baseball cards, boy shit. And then he says, did you know when a baby is born, fresh out of the womb, it can actually hear and see everything around it for up to 10 seconds after it's decapitated? This is the most childish, stupid, lame form of comedy. It's not even a form, just dumbass, unfunny subject matter. It's not even offensive, it's just straight up dumb. Dropped my cousin's baby, but who would ask me to be a pallbearer? Dead baby jokes are so 20 years ago, 20 million years ago. And then he says, dead baby jokes have made me rich. Have they? Really? I mean, I guess he does have $3 million. We looked it up earlier. So good for Anthony Jeselnik.
That's pretty good. I don't have $3 million, and I've been making dead baby jokes for years.
Yeah, but like that part though, I am just like.
And then he says Hitler joke. So I lost my grandfather in the Holocaust museum, and then I'm like, God, we still have 23 minutes left of this.
Wait, you can't just say that line though, because that is a great comma line. Like, I lost my grandfather in the Holocaust museum is like
that was
a great comma.
That's because to me at least, and correct me if you feel differently, but that's smart.
Yes.
So.
And then he goes joke about. Then in my notes, sorry, let me just repeat.
Also, he's $5 million net worth in 2022.
Good.
And then I have joke about racist grandma and Mark Twain, totally predictable. Quote, I am a real comedian, the best of all time, LOL, okay, dude.
Self-confidence, we like it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into the thoughts and prayers.
Okay, go to it,
AJ,
sorry.
take it.
Well, so he's talking about how he has this love of making jokes about tragedies the day they happen. He makes an Aurora, Colorado Batman joke where he tweets out, other than that, how was the movie? kind of funny. He tweets about the Boston bombing. I liked the part where he's talking about, I don't pay attention to the news, but I know when tragedies happen because people just start texting me, don't do it.
Yeah, that was funny.
Which
that was funny.
Makes me laugh.
But that's where it went against his point. Like, for me, I was like, okay, there is a point in, like, when everything is so sad, how can I make people smile and make a joke? I get that. But to me, it sounded like he just liked to be the person. It was, like, very self-centered. Because he was like, I don't get the news. I just get a bunch of texts of people being like, don't do it. You're the one that's going to do it. Like, you don't do it.
To his point, so he makes a tweet about the Boston bombing and so on, and he gets...
he said he got in trouble for that.
He gets threatened to lose his whole job for it.
He should have just finished the tweet, by the way. The tweet is, I guess some lines just shouldn't be crossed, especially finish lines. He could have just done the first part. I thought that was good enough. The finish lines is him again trying to be too smart. I think he thinks he is so clever. When sometimes
I think he wanted them to. When you tweet out on the man, he wanted to make sure people knew this is what I'm referring to.
Yes, but
anyway, he gets threatened to lose his job, and he says it sounds like you're making. They tell him it sounds like you're making fun of the victims, and he goes, no, because the victims aren't on Twitter. They're busy doing victim shit. They're not in the middle of getting a tourniquet going, are we trending right now? And then he goes on to people that get on Twitter and comment, some version of thoughts and prayers. And he says, you know what you're really doing? He says, that's worth less than nothing, truly less than nothing. You're giving no time, no money, no compassion. All you're really doing is saying, don't forget about me. Lots of crazy distractions in the news, but I'm also sad. And then he says they're like a wedding photographer who only takes selfies, which I thought was funny.
Right, but by him being like, I have to comment on this and make a funny joke, I don't see how that's any different.
Except for he's not trying to show sympathy to, like, his point is...
Yeah, he's being mean. So it's like both people are saying something. One of them is sending their love to these people who undeniably, like, I see sad things happen and I feel bad. And
so let's talk about it. That's what I wanted to bring up is I think about this all the time. When something sad happens or when there's a political something, I want to comment on it. I want to post about it. But when it doesn't, when it's not about me and it's, am I like, all of a sudden I'm getting that endorphin high because I got a bunch of likes on my like sad comment about, the Aurora, Colorado shooting or the Boston bombing, and all it's really doing is making, like, it's nobody that is at that thing is going to feel better about it. Maybe communally online we are all feeling better because we're commenting, and maybe that is important, but I've never thought about the perspective of, like, you're just doing it to make yourself feel better, and maybe that's okay. Maybe we need to feel like I just hadn't thought about it like that before.
I always think of it in the perspective of, like, if I was affected by this event and I saw Anthony Jeselnik,
I would be like, go fuck yourself.
I would be
my sister just died.
That's
like
different.
Blind with rage.
We're talking about two different things. Yes, he is happy.
No, not really. These are the victims. Like, victims aren't just the, like, however many people died literally in the Boston bombing. It's like the families, the community.
But I'm talking about two different things. Anthony Jeselnik making a joke is offensive. He wants to be offensive. That is his whole brand. We've talked about it, is to be offensive. But he's talking about the other end of not being offensive, of just being a commenter, just being my thoughts and prayers with the people.
Yeah, that's called virtue signaling. Virtue. Like that.
Right.
He just explained virtue signaling,
right.
8 years before the term was coined,
Yeah, exactly. But is there substance to that? Like, it makes me really think. Like, part of me thinks if I'm a person involved, or I know somebody, or it affects me directly, one of these incidents, and I see millions of people, thoughts and prayers, does that make me feel good, bad, indifferent? Probably indifferent. I'm probably not. I'm too occupied to even think about them. But knowing that I'm too occupied to think about them, does the people posting, like, are they thinking about me as somebody involved, or are they really just thinking about my community and getting some likes? I don't know. I don't really know.
Yeah, but even if it doesn't involve me, I'm still like, I have an empathy where I'm like, even for the people that it's affecting, like, I'm taking on their feelings, and if they saw this, like, it's still just as bad,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's virtue signaling. So, like, them posting thoughts and prayers, him having his tweet literally is no better, and it's just... Is it about making yourself feel good? Yeah, that's why you're posting, right?
That's
you're
what
posting
he's posting
to feel
too, though.
Right,
to be like, I'm making a joke
and
while
I'm so
everyone
funny,
else is being stupid. Like,
Is it okay if I pivot to another funny joke that I thought he had?
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
This is like right in that time frame when Thoughts and Prayers was like the catchphrase where there was these mass shootings and people would be like, our thoughts and prayers. And it's like, well, why don't you actually like change a gun law? Like, we don't want your thoughts and prayers. Like, so it was right around that.
We still get that.
Yeah, and nothing has ever changed, but it was right at the beginning of that topic.
But you know what? Like, okay, I can't change the gun law. You can't change the gun law. Like, we can try in whatever way, voting, etc. But, like, at the end of the day, if I see that there's a shooting somewhere, like, I've seen shootings that are like, I'm like, fuck, my friend lives in that town. And that was, like, a grocery store that she could have gone to that day.
For sure.
That's fucking crazy. And obviously, I would talk to her privately. But also, like, seeing the pictures or seeing these fucking Snapchat videos of kids in their school hiding. Like, oh my God, it's horrific. And, I'm sorry for you guys. I'm sorry for all of us that this is a reality.
I think we're also misremembering, like, I honestly think it dates, like, right towards 2020, like, all the protests that happened that summer with the George Floyd stuff. Like, all of a sudden I saw a shift in the way people were posting on social media where it was no longer, like, a thoughts and prayers post. It was like, here's how to get involved, here's a meeting, here's someplace you can donate, here's the number to call your local, politician.
Definitely got a little bit more active.
All of a sudden it wasn't what Jeselnik is saying, which is worthless. Like, it was like...
Right, but where have we gotten since then anyway? What's changed since then? Literally nothing.
That's not necessarily true. I mean, it's slow and steady.
I don't know, more people posting, I guess, about things. But I don't know, like... I think there's value in posting action things and even just like things that are like trending on Twitter, for example, like just things talking about it. It kind of just like shows the pulse of a nation, you know, like it's at least like, okay, I'm not alone in thinking that this is really fucked up, right? Like during George Floyd, like I think it's important for like Black people to know that they're not the only ones who are looking around and saying, whoa, this is fucked up, like things have to change. Even if all we're doing is saying this is fucked up, at least I can say to Black people, hey, this is fucked up and I'm with you.
Sure.
You know, like that has some value.
Look what you've made us
And he's coming in and doing the opposite, which is like just for literally his own self-gain so that he can be the person who makes a joke when someone dies. Like, I think that's fucking lame.
I think that he has... It's funny because most celebrities talk about how they don't want to be typecast and pigeonholed, and like that's all he does, to where like I can't watch him do anything now because there's no originality to every time. Like, again, it goes back to what I've been saying this whole time of just like, I know the joke. Like,
I would rather be pigeonholed. I think, and I don't know if this is me saying this personally, I'm just saying I think there are people out there that would rather be pigeonholed and successful than constantly evolving and nobody knows them, you know?
Yeah, but I think Jeselnik is probably smart and funny enough to where he could do something else, but he's now just like taking this easy way of like, this is my formula and I have to be mean. I have to be crude.
It's a bit of typecasting, right?
He's like, controlled by his base.
Yeah, this is what people want out of him.
Yeah,
I can't wait for when he runs for president. I think it's going to be...
Michael, what jokes do you want to tell?
If you thought the nicknames Donald Trump came up with for Marco Rubio were funny.
Honestly, I think Anthony Jeselnik had a part in Trump getting elected.
Oh, there we go.
I think that he contributed to Donald Trump being president. As far as culture and values.
It is
I actually
Trump
say that dead seriously. Like, this guy, his whole bullshit, like, bootstrap.
I can't
like,
take you seriously.
I swear I'm not even kidding.
He's profiting off of those people, but
yes.
he's not...
like furthering
again,
this like, ridiculous...
he's a symptom, not...
To our listeners... Do you guys like this kind of comedy? I'm curious. Comment on this if you do, because I'd like to see where we stand. Yeah, no, really. I'm very interested, based on like the makeup of this table and what we've said, what the general consensus is. I mean, he's successful, so...
I do think his last line here, when he's talking about how he gets death threats for some of his stuff, and he says, if I get killed for one of my jokes... that is the best way I could go out. And I really believe, like, I thought about that for a while. Like, can you imagine if somebody took out Anthony Jeselnik? He would be remembered forever. Oh, Anthony Jeselnik, legend, died for
but
his jokes, you know, like
he's not that funny. No one's gonna kill him.
Again,
so that's the shark party.
Also,
But, like,
he's not
Biggie's-
like a revolutionary, like standing up for like valuable
like
ideas.
First Amendment rights
Like,
or
It's not Lenny Bruce.
yeah.
Hey,
So he goes on, he ends his set with the shark party talk where he's basically trying to make himself feel better about a sketch that he did, I guess.
I'm not gonna lie, the shark party like kind of sounded funny.
Yeah, so he actually makes it sound...
I was kind of like,
He
you know
makes
what?
it sound good. Everyone, Google Jeselnik Shark Party. It is the lamest sketch I've ever seen. He makes it sound like it was this
what
huge
part of
crazy...
it makes it sound funny though? It's just sharks dancing.
And that just sounds like they would have a good time and like party they're having. Like it sounded funny.
It's just like
But literally,
shark
it's...
party, and
Like,
then like
Jeselnik doesn't even dance in it. It's these really bad costumes. The music's not good. He's like, oh, it goes on for way too long. It went on for like 30 seconds. The stripper like wasn't a stripper, and like
then what was the stripper?
It was basic cable. It was
like a
it was a dressed human
was a
being.
yeah, it was a girl in a shark outfit who like gave him a lap dance for a second that he was kind of into, but like. It was not funny at all. It wasted my time. I'm sad I saw it. And
I'm just confused on.
And at the
what part
end, it was
sounded
weird.
funny.
on
You just
what?
made it sound funny.
I don't know. It did. I'm thinking about a
Didn't sound
sketch
funny.
comedy show. Like if that ran on SNL.
That was his favorite thing.
I
He's
was
been
thinking
talking
like a
about this sketch
Tosh,
for
like,
years.
George.
Watch
Finally got
Key
to do
and
it.
Peele. Like it can be done eloquently.
He also wasn't a sketch show. He was a Tosh show.
Like,
He was
okay,
like
his
a
whole
suit.
premise
Yeah.
his whole premise behind the shark party was sharks kill this many amount of human beings a year, whereas human beings kill this many amount of sharks a year, which is significantly
Exponentially
greater
more, yeah.
than the amount that sharks kill of humans. So every time a shark kills a human, he has a party on his show. I'm thinking like this could be so funny. You could have like a round table of sharks meeting and being like, "We finally got one, boys," and then like going into a crazy party.
That is a funny
That's
idea.
funny,
The
and that's what I was
execution he
expecting.
described was not funny. The only part of that bit that was really had me cackling was when he's talking about how New Zealand was basically like trying to cancel him.
Yeah.
And he's like, he just like in the middle of this monologue about talking about trying to get New Zealand going after him, he's like, they didn't even kill the shark. Like they're coming after me.
Yeah, I don't really get that though. Like they don't kill sharks. When
No,
they
of
kill
course
human.
not. But they're mad that he made fun of a shark killing somebody. They weren't mad at the shark for killing somebody.
Right.
That was his point. They didn't even kill the shark. They're trying to cancel me. That made me laugh.
Is everyone okay if I go back to one joke towards the end that I like?
Yes.
Please.
It's not Shark Party related, but
Please.
We should have a shark party after this. though.
I'm down. He was talking about his mom a little bit and like framed her as like a huge racist, and so like I'm sitting there watching going, oh great, what's about to come after this? And I found this joke to be like very well set up and, you know, one of his better ones, but he was like, growing up, he would bring friends over occasionally, and every so often he would bring like a black friend over, and whenever he would do that, his mom would pull him aside and say like, who's your new friend? What is he, a drug dealer? And Anthony would be like, Mom, put your money away.
Yeah.
And I was like, super racist, but like very funny.
Right.
You
He
know,
made
like
his mom-
excellent joke.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, it's so good. Loved it.
So like that stuff, definitely willing to give him some credit for. I thought he told some like additional dead baby jokes. I wrote in my notes like tomato, more dead baby jokes. But you know,
Tomatoes.
I just wish he had like kept that in the first half, you know, like rather than dragging it into the last part of the
It's
set.
just, I definitely, I read a good amount of interviews on him, and I watched his roast and some of his other, bits of his other sets, and we've watched even, who is Broad City that we did?
Alana.
Alana Glazer, yeah. So like, everyone we've watched has been a really good performer, at least entertaining as a performer, and he is so boring.
But I'm glad we did him then, just as like a comparison to everyone else we've done.
And then his jokes just don't land. This is another joke that I quoted from one of his roasts that Seth MacFarlane was hosting, and he goes, "First, I thought Seth was just famous for the Family Guy, but then I did some research, and it turns out he's not famous at all." And it's just like, yeah, huh?
Fine.
Right, yeah, like that's like kind of how like all of his jokes are. Yeah. It's actually very awkward in the roast with Charlie Sheen. His whole set, like, no one's laughing.
So I'm like addicted to idioms and turns of phrase and how we construct our sentences. We tend to like mimic each other. We say things. So like when he can pull apart what the expectation based on what you thought the sentence was going, like the one that Michael just read, like you think you know where that sentence is going, you know, is he a drug dealer? And you're like, Mom, that's racist. Enough, Mom. Put your money, you know, like that's like a form of how we talk that he pulls apart. So like there are examples of that are great. There are examples of that are terrible. But like, I don't know, one that me and my brothers will like constantly repeat back to each other that I just think is really clever. He has a joke in one of his specials where he says, I think my friend Jeff is gay. I don't know. I'm pretty bad with names. Like that's so, because you think you know where that sentence is going. He sets you up with a line that you've heard a million times. I think this person is gay. Like, you know, so that is to me is like when you can play with expectation of common language, that is smart. Like there is something smart about that.
I like this analysis of this special though.
Wait, should we all say our favorite joke?
One last thought before I lose it. So it's interesting going back and watching these things and not like he serves a specific purpose clearly because 3 out of the 4 of us don't like him, I would say, and that's enough though. The AJs of the world, the 25%, is enough to where this guy has been relevant for over a decade.
Way to go, AJ.
Because go back and watch these roasts. Like, usually you watch roasts. We were watching the Andy Samberg roast for James Franco. Incredible. Everyone on the dais is so cracking up, hysterical. Everyone in the audience is rolling.
Well, they're also high as shit.
Yeah, everyone is. But it's still, everyone's laughing on the dais, everyone's laughing in the audience, everyone's laughing. That, to me, is a successful routine.
Sure. Like,
you watch Jeselnik, and like people sometimes like give him like a pity laugh. There's a member in the audience that sometimes like are gasping, so it's like, wow, okay, that person got, but like the people aren't really laughing. Even in the second half, like that lady stops laughing. We talked about how like the beginning he's got some more stuff, but like it's interesting that he's gotten so far because he's got this wit that I think people really respond to, but ultimately I think as a performer, he just doesn't cut it, and you can tell with the audiences.
You're right that he's better formatted to like be a writer on like Weekend Update. Like if he was just like the Weekend Update dude, sat behind a desk and was just like, here's what's happening in the news and here's one joke about it.
Yeah.
Probably would kill.
Yeah.
Would probably kill.
I'm in full agreement with that.
Yeah. All right. Anybody got some favorite like last thoughts?
I mean, I told all my favorite jokes.
I'm just going to say, personally, my closing argument here would be a quote where he says, Anthony, women must hate you. They must come to your shows and hate you. And I say, no, stupid women hate my shows. Smart women don't come to my shows. And with that being said, I will never be talking about this man again, nor giving him my time nor energy.
Hey-o.
That's that.
And now a word from our sponsors.
And this little piggy went all the way to Krusty Krusty's Feed Emporium. You got those little crusties on your piggly wigglies, right? And you're like, what should I do about them? How do I make sure my grandma don't see my crusty feet? Well, guess what? Come on down to Krusty Krusty's Feed Emporium and we'll get those feet looking real good. We use our smoothie blender where we put a smoother acai ball all over your feet. We also offer our pillow feet process, which we like to make your feet go to sleep real nice, and then they wake up all dazzling nice. Oh yeah, that's right. So all your piggly wigglies gross and disgusting and make me want to vomit, then come on down to Krusty Krusty's Feed Emporium.
On the next episode of If You Have to Explain the Joke, we'll be reviewing Joan Rivers Abroad in London.